main things that keep people from believing in a loving God and keep them from coming to the faith is suffering. We often think about the hardships of life, and the Bible does have some explanations of why the earth is full of suffering, and I think we should consider them. I remind people all the time that we are not living in paradise, and that's the cause of so many of the problems with suffering around us. You remember that in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve chose to disobey God, and as a result of that, bad things were allowed to enter the earth. In fact, it's considered that they were cursed. At that point, it became harder to get the earth to bring forth the kind of fruit that we can eat. And that means that toil and labor entered the earth. And a lot of the problems we see nowadays are the result of toil and labor. Also, at the fall, women were cursed. We were cursed that we would have trouble with marriage and with children. All these things would be difficult for us. And if you look all over the world today, of all the oppressed people, women seem to be getting it the hardest in every situation. And part of the curse of the fall is death. And through that, we find that everyone gets sick sometime and dies sometime, and life is hard. But our encouragement, folks, is that is not the end of the story. Someday, we will receive new bodies as believers, and we will be in a wonderful place called heaven, and we will be living in the situation that we were meant to be in. Suffering has some known causes, and that, for example, is when you see someone suffering from the result of something they have done. Maybe it's an unwise choice. If you break the law, you may get a ticket. You may end up in jail. If you abuse yourself by drinking too much alcohol, you will get liver disease. If you smoke, you may get cancer. So some suffering is related to what we do. But there is some suffering we will never understand. We don't always know why good people get cancer and die, except that we know that we will all die. And whether we live to be 100 or only 10, it's really a rather brief time. One reason that people have suffering is because God's deliverance from it is so encouraging. It glorifies God. In fact, when Jesus' disciples once asked him, "Why is this man suffering? Is it because of sin?" In those days, they often thought that illness was a result of sin, either sin of the parents or that person themselves. And Jesus said, this person isn't ill because of sin. They are ill so that God can show his glory in their lives. And then Jesus healed him. Have you ever sacrificed of yourself to help someone else? Certainly mothers do that all the time, and fathers or people at work or heroes. That's what heroism is all about, is giving of ourselves willingly to help someone else. So that is a suffering, but it's a suffering that we do because there's a greater purpose. One purpose that Christians might suffer for is willingly for the gospel. There are times when Christians will stay up all night to help someone. Maybe they will go out in the streets obeying Jesus and stand out in the cold and distribute gospel literature. Maybe they will humble themselves and allow themselves to be embarrassed or physically disadvantaged in order to help another person or bring the gospel to them. And that's what the Apostle Paul told us he did, that he sacrificed his health to bring the good news to others.